Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Lectures of Fallen Wisdom. This will serve as a part 2 to the previous episode. And the idea is the source of the 7 deadly sins being a lack of self-confidence. Now, we've traced many roots the reason why this self-confidence is low, but we've identified the main thing as thought itself. Thought itself, when not applied intentionally, aimless thought creates a scenario where your self-esteem goes low. And since your thought allows your brain to go there, it also allows your brain to crave or become transfixed by the 7 deadly sins. So when you are lacking in self-confidence, you are envious of others. When you are lacking in self-confidence, you are greedy for money. When you are lacking self-confidence, you grow gluttonous to fill the hole, the emptiness. When you are lacking self-confidence, you're stingy with your money. Just a host of you're lustful, you're slothful, and also you're depressed. I mean, that's another aspect of slothfulness. So all these things, they weigh you down, and they're all the product of one thing, thought. So it is one thing. It's a lack of self-confidence that comes from thought. So everybody has a natural confidence that they're born with that gets sort of beaten out of you by thoughts being placed in your head, by our education system, by those around you, those who have been similarly indoctrinated. There's no blaming people anymore. This is not intentional. Your parents told you suck for the best possible reasons. They wanted you to overcome that. They wanted you to rise above it and prove them wrong. You notice in Jewish families, they don't practice this. They tell their kids that they're great. They use a completely different pedagogical tool, and therefore they get much better results with their children. But the non-Jewish Western world has been primarily dominated by parenting styles and education matrices, which inculcate a lower self-esteem. And the idea is that in order to be an industrious member of this modern society, you will use that low self-esteem as a fuel to show them, quote unquote, to overcome it. And some do. Some get massively wealthy. What's interesting about the people who gain a lot of success due to this drive, this lack of self-confidence, is that they find that even when they achieve massive success, it hasn't wiped out their low self-esteem. They still have low self-esteem. In fact, all it does is contaminate the rest of the world with the label in his mind of being lame. So if the whole world loves me and I'm super famous because I went after it because I had low self-esteem and I started indulging in the sin of pride, if I do that and everybody loves me but I still don't feel self-esteem, I just think the whole world is terrible. The whole world is below me and I'm low, and so I just get even more depressed. You know, there's at least something to hope for. If somebody's poor and they're hoping to be rich, they think, okay, there's some hope. And that in itself is very valuable in a psyche that is riddled with depression. But when you get to a point where you've gotten all the money you need and you still can't solve this Rubik's Cube of emotion, how do I stop myself from feeling depressed? You're in a pickle there. And you can buy all kinds of analysts and meditations and acid trips. You'll never get there unless you learn to turn off the non-intentionally thinking brain. And once you do that, all the sins that you're trying with willpower to stay away from, they magically they disappear from your mind. The inclination to do them is no longer there. Because if you can just refrain from thinking for a long enough period of time, your natural self-confidence will rise up to you and take hold of you once again. That self-confidence you had as a young child, that got stressed out of you through different engrammatic episodes, to use a scientological term. Certain engrams now floating around, getting you tired, getting you demoralized. Demoralization is the key to capitalist society. It would not survive where everybody self-actualized. And that's the big fear. And that's why the powers that be don't advocate for it, and they really don't like philosophies that try to get you there. Christ's original philosophy was trying to get you there, and so they killed him. But it's just the same message. The message is, you're here now. Your only salvation is in the now, because that's the one you live in the now. You know, people are living for some future paradise, and when they get there, what will they be looking to ahead of that? They will be so accustomed to looking ahead, they won't even recognize paradise when they found it. But make no mistake, I'm not going to tell you that you're in paradise if you're feeling bad. You're not. But you understand that your feeling bad is attached to certain thoughts in your brain. And those thoughts in your brain are just, they're just like commercials for your pain that like to play like on an auto type track. And it's trying to get you to pay attention to a certain area of your life using pain, but also using the judgment of society, but also using the overlying existential judgment that you're not good enough and that you're not getting accomplished the goals that you dreamed of. Forget about the fact this voice wants you to forget that these dreams were given to you by society. Society made you create all these extravagant dreams for your future to counteract the low self-esteem that was inculcated into you by that same society. It's a great vehicle to get a dog to run. You just tie a stake in front of him with a stick that he can never reach, and he'll run forever trying to reach it. So run until the dog dies, which is what happens to us. We run ourselves ragged, chasing for a piece of meat that can never be grabbed, because we're trying to grab it with the wrong hands. We can never grab it with the hands of thought. The hands of thought are too slow, too fumbly to grab enlightenment. Enlightenment comes when thought ends. So if you want, willpower is the dumbest thing out. Willpower is a term that comes from the land of the mind. Willpower is the thing that comes from the myth that you can even control yourself when you have low self-esteem. You can't, okay? Once you get to a state of low self-esteem through thought, you are an uncontrollable monster of sin. You're going to do greedy stuff. You're going to do prideful stuff. You're going to run the gamut. Why? Because those are the principal symptoms of your low self-esteem, and they will just come out naturally. And when you stop your thinking process and only use your mind like a calculator to solve problems, and otherwise have it off, when you start to do that, your natural confidence reasserts itself, and with your natural confidence comes different thinking as well. So you can, once you get your confidence back, you can allow your mind to wander a little bit, but be careful, because even the most enlightened mind will wander to the negative. Those grooves have been built there by years of Western society. Maybe if you're a tribal member, you haven't been exposed to all this, you have a better chance. But we have an unmistakable manufacturer's groove in our mind for the negative, and the mind will take us there, no matter how enlightened we are. So you might think, oh, I'm enlightened, I can let my mind wander. That's just what your mind wants you to think. So be vigilant. The point is being awake. Okay, you know when you get into a negative emotion, when you get into a lust for a sin, when you get into a desire to do a sinful thing, that means that something's going wrong. That means that thought has so captured your mind that your self-esteem is very low. It's like your self-esteem is running on empty. And the only way to fill it is with nothingness, which is the craziest thing. You can fill your tank up. That's why people do meditation for 3 damn hours. Like, they're filling up their tank with nothingness because that's the only thing that fills it. No thought, observe mind, let thoughts just pass through and observe them. But for the most part, try to command your mind to just be silent. Is that so much to ask? The mind is a great, wonderful tool. And yes, it's always, there's no way to completely stop it. But on a certain level where it really affects you, the person that wants to live forever, where it starts to break you down molecularly and starts to get your own cells to rebel against you, well then, that's what happens. They rebel, either through a sickness or through some kind of ailment, chronic ailment. Your body, those are your cells in revolt. They're saying, look, we don't like the chemicals that your mind is washing in right now. It hurts us. It makes it inhospitable for us to continue as a part of your organism. And so a lot of them will rebel, and some even go to cancer. So this is very important for your health. Okay, you need to resolve this conflict within yourself. That is the self that was given the judgment power over you by the society, which inculcates all the ridiculous criticisms that have been leveled at you, all the ridiculous attempts to break down your natural self-confidence. And you have to. The only way to overcome that is to just stop the thinking and learn to do it. Become a master at just that. Now, I think I've beaten this dead horse enough. So I, too, am going to disengage from this topic, as it is also an emotional one, because you start to get a little resentful. But be careful. That becomes another fuel for another sleep. So staying awake is you use the desire for the 7 deadly sins as signs that you're going to sleep, that you've gone to sleep. Anytime you want to be angry, you want to act all crazy, like freak out in anger. Anytime you want to be greedy or whatever, lustful, you really want to fuck somebody. It's just take it as a sign, okay? And you need to take a deep breath. You need to say disengage, and you need to quiet your mind and move on, and then keep it quiet. Okay, train your mind. Train it. Let it fight for you. There's no reason to have it be arguing with you. It's like having a very bad lieutenant just not knowing the chain of command. Anyway, I think I've explained this. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back with another episode of Fallen Wisdom.